life. And on no account should anybody take another's life. In fact, you yourself are not allowed to take your own life. And you give us the example of the man who fought a war, waged war, who did so many wonderful things. At the end of the day, he was told, well, he said he was ashamed to go to before his Lord because of what he had done. Am I getting the story right?
What he did was actually, somebody threw a spear at him, and except for allowing death to take his natural course, he took his own life.
He took his own life.
He didn't initiate, but he took it. And that's forbidden. You must not take your life under whatever guise.
Okay. So we'll do it this way. We'll continue with our series from now till about 8:45. Then between 8:45 and 9, we'll allow people to call in and ask you questions.
Okay.
So we don't get sidetracked.
Okay.
So this week, this episode, we're looking at the relationship between Islam and those who are non-Muslims.
Yeah.
How the average Muslim is supposed to live with those who are not Muslim, who are not adherents of that faith.
Yeah.
So that's what we'll be focusing on today.
Okay. Well, we thank the Almighty for giving us the opportunity to share this moment with ourselves. Because where there is understanding, there can be mutual coexistence, and when there is mutual coexistence, there can be progress. A lot has been happening all over the world in general, and also in our dear country Nigeria, that have been serious points for concern for all and sundry. Most importantly, what we talked about last week, which is on the issue of taking life. And our point was to make people realize that in Islam, a great premium has been placed on the reservation of life, to the extent that under no guise are you permitted to take a life except those three conditions that God has sanctioned. And we made this to quickly tell us last week that even us human beings, we are given certain conditions that life can be taken. Okay? Now, when you consider all these things that we have said, we want to now look at how exactly then is a Muslim supposed to live with those who are not Muslims. So the beginning point of this is to understand that Islam is not interested in everybody becoming a Muslim. God is not interested in everybody becoming a Muslim. By that we mean it is not his goal to force us, because part of the nature he gave us when he created us is that he gave us the choice to serve him or not to serve him. And if after giving us that choice, and then he forces us to worship him, then what is the objective for giving us choice? After all, almost every other thing in creation are automatically worshiping God. The angels, everybody knows the angels. In fact, in Islam, we are told that la ya'suna Allaha amrahum wa yaf'aluna ma yu'marun, meaning they do not disobey the Almighty in anything, and they always carry out his commandment. The son carries out the commandment of God, comes out when God says he should come out. Every other thing follows. So God already has more than enough of his creatures that worship him without what? Without question.
Okay.
Now he wanted to bring another race of creation that will be given choice, and then to show that he can actually be worshipped without what? Without compulsion. That's why he created us. When he was narrating the account to us in the Quran, he said he gave the alternative, this option, to other creatures of fish. Give them to the mountains, give them to the heaven, give them to the earth. All of them, they shunned the idea that no, we don't want choice, we want to be worshiping you. He said man came forward. In Quran chapter 3, verse 72, man came forward, accepted that I will accept the responsibility of you giving me choice.
Free will,
Free will. And then I will do what you want. And that is why of all creatures of God, man reserves the right to be the what? The highest. Because those other people are worshiping without choice. When man willingly chooses to serve God, he rises above the angels. And that's why he has been promised that everlasting abode of bliss called paradise. Angels are not going to paradise. But man, when he decides that, okay, ordinarily I want to do this, but God says I should not do this. I'm going to do what God wants. I will serve him. I will fulfill his will in my life. Then he promises you paradise. If you now misuse that choice, you go to the other place. So from the beginning, God himself knows that everybody will not worship him. Otherwise, who's going to go to hell? Hell, just like prison, prison is created for human beings.
Right.
For people who refuse to follow the law. Are you following me? All right. But God ultimately, he doesn't want anybody to end up in this terrible place. Like I told you last week when we were talking outside the studio, I said God asked the question, Ma yaf'alullahu bi'adhabikum in shakaritum wa amantum. In Quran chapter 4, he said, what does God want to do with the punishing of man? What do I want to gain? What do I want to do with punishing you? If you are grateful to me, recognize me as your Lord who is giving you everything, and then you believe in me and live your life according to my will. Meaning that what God wants is for us to willingly, freely submit that choice and say, you gave me the choice, but I want to use the choice to worship you. When the Muslim already understands this, the issue of trying to force anybody to become a Muslim does not come there.
Yeah.
And therefore he knows that, in fact, the true test of his faith is how well he's able to go alongside others. Because he knows that just like he had the choice, they also have a choice. If he chooses to serve God and they choose not to serve God, what's your business? Everybody is free to do whatever he wants. And that is why when you peruse the teachings of Islam, you will see that it is Islam that has actually given us many rules that is supposed to engender mutual living. For example, every human being, you have to live in a particular place, in a house, a home.
Right.
And when you live in that home, you must have neighbors. From there alone, you can guess how Islam has decided on how Muslims should live in relationship with others. So, for example, our prophet, as he was instructed by God, told us, he said, among the things he said about the neighbor, he said, number one, if you are building your house, he said, do not erect your wall, the walls of your house, as to block the ventilation of your neighbor.
That's a very practical instruction.
Very practical. That's even like a town planning or architecture. Don't build your own house in a way as to disrupt the free flow of air to your neighbor. He said again, he said, you are not a good Muslim who you eat your fill and your neighbor goes what? Hungry. You are not a good Muslim. He said again, he said the true Muslim is that one who his neighbor, they feel safe from his harm, from his evil. Meaning that when the Muslim is around them, they are supposed to be at what? At peace that, okay, I have a good neighbor. So if you are a Muslim and your neighbors do not feel secure from you, you are not a Muslim because you have not demonstrated what Islam has said.
When you say neighbors now, not neighbors who are Muslim, but neighbors who are from any other kind of neighbor.
Neighbors.
That's right.
Not neighbors who are Muslims. Not neighbors who are Muslim. Neighbors. He said again, look at this one. He said, if you have children, you go out to buy things for your children. When you are buying the thing, you have two options. Either you buy for your neighbor's children, or if you are not going to buy for your neighbor's children, you cannot give that your gift to your children in the presence of the children of your neighbor. This is what my faith teaches. You see, that's why I told you the problem why people have this wrong idea about Islam is ignorance and lack of information. Meaning, if you and I are neighbors, you're not a Muslim, I'm a Muslim. If I'm buying something, I go to Mr. Biggs, I buy burgers or what have you, I must buy your own children's home. Because that feeling that if I'm giving my child, your child is there, the child will feel that this man doesn't love me, he's not a good neighbor. And Islam doesn't want that kind of thing. He wants us to be in peace with one another. So he says, buy for, if you know, okay, maybe you don't have the means to buy for your neighbor's child, then give your child where? Inside, where your neighbor's child will not see it. Lastly, on the issue of neighbors, the prophet said, he said Jubril, that is Angel Gabriel, he said he kept on coming to tell him about the right of neighbor. Do this to the neighbor. You must not do this to the neighbor. Do this. That he felt that one day Jubril will come and say, when you die, your neighbor should inherit you. Because of the so much rights that neighbors have been given. Non-Muslim, your neighbor will not always be Muslim. Alright? That's on the issue of neighbors. Number two, generally about all the creatures of God who are not human beings, there's a general statement for the prophet. He said, Iriamu monfil ardi yarhamukum monfil samawa. He said, oh, you Muslims, be merciful to the creatures, the servant of God who are the servants of the earth, men, so that he who is in heaven can be what? Can be merciful to you. Be merciful to all the creatures of God, so that he who is in heaven, your creator, will be merciful to you. Which means your ability to get mercy from God is dependent on the ability you show to the creatures of God. Because when you harm any human being, who are you really harming? You are harming the creatures of God. So that's an insult to God. Because he has not given you the right to harm anybody. So you see, you cannot expect mercy from God if you are not merciful to, and it's not even only human beings. In Islam, what people call today animal rights, Islam has talked about this long ago. Cruelty to animals of whatever kind is a ticket to hellfire. And if you are kind to animals, you enter paradise. There was a prostitute. Ordinarily, when you see prostitute, by any determination, they are bad people. How can you be selling your body for sex? I mean, for money rather. You understand now? God himself has forbidden that. But this prostitute, one day she was thirsty. She drew water from the well to drink, and she saw a cat that was also thirsty. And she removed the shoe, put water in it, and gave that water to the cat. Prophet Islam said, on account of that single action, a committed prostitute, the Almighty forgave her and granted her paradise. Why? Because she was kind to an animal. If Islam asks you to be kind to an animal, is it human being Islam will ask you to be cruel to? So bottom line, in all, the Muslim's word is actually counted, it's actually measured by how much beneficial he is to his fellow human beings. That's what determines your true worth. And that is why when you look at the life history of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, everything he did, his teachings, his life was towards making human beings attain their true potential, irrespective of their faith. And that's why I told us last week that Prophet Islam said that if there is a non-Muslim in an Islamic state and a Muslim in that state goes and harms that non-Muslim, he said he will be the person that will walk against that Muslim on the day of judgment. He will be like the advocate of that non-Muslim. Because when that Muslim comes to an Islamic state, he has the security of the Islamic government. In fact, in one of the many cases that he had judged when he was alive, most times when there's a case between a Muslim and a non-Muslim, and the Muslim is the one that is at fault, because in Islam we are told to be, in chapter 4 verse 135, God told us, Kunu qawamina lillahi shuhada bil qisti walau ala anfusikum. He said, you Muslims must be witnesses for what? For God and justice. You must stand for justice. He said, walau ala anfusikum, even if it's against yourself, or against members of your family. In another verse, he said, don't allow the hatred or enmity or misunderstanding between you and somebody push you for you to become what? Unjust. He said, in chapter 5, be just. Being just is closest to piety. And justice, is it a function of religion? No. Justice has nothing to do with religion. Once somebody this is this person's right, you give him that right. This one is not his right, you don't give him that right. Let me tell you a story that happened during the time of the Prophet. A woman, her name was Fatima, meaning she was bearing the same name as one of the daughters of the Prophet. She was a namesake of one of the daughters of the Prophet. She was a very wealthy, noble woman, and she committed theft. There's a punishment for theft in Islam if it is proven, and all the circumstances surrounding it fulfill the condition of the Sharia. You cut off the hand from the wrist. That's what the Sharia says.
Okay.
Human beings today say that's cruel. Well,
and like you've said, punishment is just a section of the Sharia. It's not the whole of the Sharia.
It's a very small part. Like, okay, since you're promising, let me quickly say this. Before you implement the Sharia, before you implement the Wudu, the punishment side in Islam, for example, if Nigeria becomes an Islamic state, you cannot start saying you want to cut hand, you want to do this. You must have make life normal for people, providing everything that is supposed to make everybody a noble citizen.
Okay.
It is after after the government has provided what you need, somebody that now in that splendor, in that, for example, all of us used to say that in places like America, the so-called developed societies, where everything works, there is light, there is electricity, there is good road, there is medical, you have welfare, that even when you don't have work, when all these things are there, government is taking care of almost all your problems, and you still want to disturb the peace of that society, we deal with you. This is why God made most of this punishment, which are a small part of Sharia, like we said, appear to be hard. It's so that the fear of it will serve as a deterrent, because you know that when you steal, you will cut your hand. When your hand is cut, it means that anybody who sees you afterward, they know that guy is a what?
They must have stolen, yeah.
He's a thief. And you don't want anybody, even after you have been the punishment, because every time people see you, they say, hey, he's a thief. You don't want that, so you run away. The essence of the law is to make you run away. When you fear the consequence, you run away. I tell you that, but bottom line, you cannot institute the punishment until the society has been catered for. And that's why there was a whole lot of shouting that time when they introduced Sharia in Nigeria. They wanted to start implementing the wudu, the punishment side that no, we have not reached. If I told the Northerners say they want Sharia, and you want to give them Sharia, the Sharia is not cutting off hand. That is a small part of it. The Sharia is make people believe in God. How to make them believe in God? When you take care of their need. The average Nigerian now, why crime is on the rise, is that our government have what? They failed us. Most of the things we expect them to provide, we have not provided. We have our own fault, too. Don't just blame the government. But since people feel I can't get what I want,
yes,
through the legal means, let me take the legal means. When the courts are not working, or when the courts have been they've gone the other side, people resort to self-help. That is why the expectation of Islam is that provide for the people. The fourth caliph of Islam, the fifth caliph of Islam, he enriched the Muslims to the extent that when they collected zakat, one of the plans of Islam is to collect zakat, collect money, a percentage of your wealth from those who are exceedingly rich, and give to those who are poor, to ensure some kind of balance. You know, if the poor man knows that from the riches of the rich man, he has a right to eat, why would you want to go and steal from him? And when the rich man also knows that he has a duty to give the poor man, he will also be kind to him. Now, so this man, when they collected zakat during his own reign as leader of the Muslim world, there was nobody to give it to. Why? He had enriched
almost everybody.
Almost everybody. That is what Islam is all about, the welfare of man. Whether you serve God here or not, it does not matter. Provide for the people.
But again, Imam Shafi'i, I'll come in here. If you look at, if you go up north, for instance, and you find the Al-Majiris, you find those who are still not at that level, you find very rich Muslims, and you find very poor Muslims as well. Why is this divide still very glaring as we speak?
This is exactly the crux of the matter. The absolute truth is that those who are rich in this country, who not only are they rich, they are now the opportunity of having power, ruling people. Like, you know, I told us last week that in Islam, or is it on Wednesday, we don't ask for power.
Yes, you said that. You said that
because
Wednesday.
It's a great responsibility. If you are ruling if you are ruling over a people, and people are suffering under you, you are in serious trouble before God on the day of judgment. Because leadership is a trust. It's not for you to enrich yourself. It's to provide for the needs of the people. Therefore, our people are getting power. They are asking for power only for one purpose. What purpose is that? You and I know it. To enrich themselves. That's why, for example, people are calling for salary reduction. They say you cannot sustain minimum wage or what have you. But these people that are leading, whatever they want, they continue to have it. It is the poor man who is collecting 18,000 that cannot take him in 2 weeks, that you say you cannot sustain that. Leadership is sacrifice in Islam. And let me give you a story. The second caliph of Islam, Umar, the one that ruled for 10 years, who I said his era is regarded by even non-Muslims, the Orientalists, as the golden era of Islam. He introduced what is called welfare that the Western world till their own now. He introduced it. He was one that said, one day when he was the leader, he used to patrol the night of the capital where he is, to go and see whether the people that are under it, that is ruling over, whether they are whether they are surviving well. One day when he was passing by a tent, he heard a child crying. And he told he said, Muguma, believing he was addressing the mother, he said, take care of your child. So when he says that, the child will stop crying. After a while, if he starts moving, the child will start crying again. What happened? He discovered that the woman was trying to forcefully wean her child so that she can be collecting stipend from the government, because the government was giving stipend for women who had successfully weaned their child. Their children. So that's what when Umar found out about this, he said a policy Umar introduced is making parents to want to quickly wean their children. You know what he did? He made the stipend available to all mothers.
Whether you're winning or
whether you're winning or you're not winning. You see what is called welfare, social welfare. And this Umar, he said everybody had access to him as the leader. Whatever you have, come to him. In their own days, they don't have escort and what have you. Say, because when a leader rules well, he will not need protection from what? From people. They will be the one that will protect him.
Imam, that means the whole concept of Al-Majiri itself, the whole concept is null and void.
It's madness. Oh, sorry, I didn't get there. There are two things that happen with this Al-Majiri system. One, the parents who they are poor, one, and two, they say they also want their children to have some form of banal education.
Okay.
They send them to the Mala. everybody go and keep their children there. The Malam doesn't have enough resources
to cater for
take care of them.
Yeah.
So what does he do? He sends them out to go and beg. Is that the Islamic model of education? No. First and foremost, it's your responsibility to take care of every child God has given you. If you cannot take care of a child, don't have a child.
Yeah.
That's why premarital sex is forbidden. Because when you have premarital sex, you are not married to the woman. You are not prepared for a child coming. You are just enjoying yourself, having a nice time. The child comes, you have become pregnant. You see wahala. Therefore, don't bring children to this world if you know you are not ready to take care of them. That's number one. Therefore, expecting that the Malam will be the one to take care of your child, you have got it wrong from the foundation. Number two, you the Malam, if you know you don't have the means to take care of these children that have been sent to you, tell the parents, oh, I cannot take care of them. Take care of your what? Of your children. So it's a mistake from the part of the parent, and also a mistake from the part of the teacher. Yeah. Above all, it's a failure of government. Because if parents don't have the means, teachers don't have the means, why do we have government? They are supposed to provide what? Schools for everybody to have access to education. We've already discussed education, how important knowledge and education. The first revelation given to our prophet, he was told to what? To read. Read, learn. Islam cannot be practiced with ignorance. And it's because of that ignorance that has pervaded the life of the modern day Muslim. That's why we're having these problems we're having. So you see, the whole Al-Majiri system has no basis in Islam. If you want your child to learn, you want to give him to a Malam, be sure the Malam has the means to take care of that child. Or when you take your child, just like in so-called modern day schooling, when you take your child to school, who takes care of the child? You provide. They only educate your child while in school. You provide because it's your child. You have the responsibility to take care of your child, for which you are going to be queried by God on the day of judgment.
You know, Imam Shafi'i, you've done something that many people haven't done, and you know, just listen to you talk, and then you wonder, okay, if this is the true position of Islam, why do we have so many things going wrong? Why do we have more wrongs than rights in Islam here in Nigeria, the way it's been practiced? Why? That's the big question I'm asking.
You know the funny thing? Before you go on the societal stage, look at the individual Muslim.
Yeah.
When you look at, we are the Muslims, right? We are the ones that interact with ourselves. Every day, people like us are pain. That why is the life of the Muslim like this? Why have you become a betrayer of your faith, my Muslim brother, my Muslim sister? Why? Why is it that if you say you have accepted Islam, you believe Islam is the way for your salvation, why then have you refused to follow his what? His teachings? It comes from as simple as Islam says, for example, you know, greeting is it's one of the things that makes us human. And in fact, in almost every society, people who don't know how to greet are regarded as being what? Mannerless. People who have no training. Common good morning in English. Ekaro, Deira. Wait again. Common that one. The Muslim children of today, because of this ignorance, they cannot even greet their elders. And you know, Islam even gave us mannerism in greeting. He said the young one should greet what? The elderly one first. Because ordinarily, how will a young child see an elderly person expecting the elderly one to greet you first? A child that is well brought up, even basic things like that doesn't have impact on society, but it shows the manner or the etiquette that child has is missing. He says the smaller group should greet larger group. Maybe 5 people are moving, they encounter 7 people coming. The smaller group should greet
regardless of age at this point.
No, okay. It doesn't matter, because you are a smaller group. Greet the larger group. He says the man who is walking should greet the one who is sitting, because the one who is sitting, you met him there, you are passing, you met him there, so you greet him. And he said, look at what he said here. He said the person who is riding your car, your bicycle, should greet the one who is walking. Can you see the wisdom in that one? So that the one who is walking does not feel that because he has money.
Imam Shafi'i,
he has no regard for
these things you've laid out like this. It reminds me of the Old Testament. The Old Testament in the Bible has many such similarities. Laws that God gave Moses to the children of Israel when they were in the wilderness. So many of them. The book of Leviticus has so many of them, about 600 plus of them. Everyday living, how to live your life, everyday living. And it seems Islam has many similarities with this particular segment of everyday living, everyday, very practical things.
So, bottom line, to answer your question, once the Muslim cannot even imbibe the culture of greeting, he is told, or she is told, she does not know how to greet, he doesn't know how to greet. He is missing that one. how then you expect things that have a great effect on society and life? How is it going to pass there?
Yeah.
If you cannot pass the small examination, how do you pass the big one? So bottom line, the summary of it all is that two things. Number one, the Muslims must learn, and that's what people like us have dedicated our life to teach. Like I've been saying,
Muslims are non-Muslims because I'm learning from this.
Okay.
I'm learning from this
exactly.
now. Yeah.
Now, so you have to learn. You have to learn.
Yeah.
Then number two, whatever you have learned, this is the second stage. It's not enough to learn.
Yeah.
Whatever you have learned, put it into what?
Into practice.
What's the point of having knowledge if you don't make use of it?
Okay, Imam Shafi'i, let's open the phone lines. For the past 4 weeks, you've been talking lots of things. You've been educating us, not just talking, educating us and teaching us and shedding more light on issues. So we'll allow you out there to ask your questions, to bring up observations and what you think we can do better as well. Imam Shafi'i is here to answer all your questions. The ones he can't answer, I believe he'll tell you he can't answer. The ones he can answer, he'll tell you he can answer. He'll do his best to answer the questions. 084-461-923. 0809-597-5764, 080-999-14826, and 08000 Nigeria info. A word of caution though, it's not a session for us to point fingers or to blame or to attack people's personalities and beliefs. It's a session for us to ask questions you've had in your mind for the past couple of years or months even, and you want those questions to be addressed. Here's the time, and now's the time to do that, not to blame people or to attack personalities or issues, please. Hello, good morning.
Hello, morning. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Pastor to be on the line.
Good to hear from you. Go ahead.
The whole religion centers on kindness. These days we are just praising God, no kindness. That is why everything. What I want to say is that if like Saturday I heard everything he said. If he has said all these things and the people are not doing it, which means the teachers have failed. They have failed God and man. If you're quoting all these things from the Bible and the people that you're teaching them, they are not doing it, which means we should blame the teachers. What I want to say is that, see, when this thing started, this insurgency, it was those non-Muslim, like the Israelites and the Americans, in the 90s and 80s. The Arabs were conspiring. Even some of the leaders, the president, even this Al-Assad of Syria, he sponsored some Hezbollah against Israel and America. So what I want to say, when you see evil coming, even that evil does not affect you, maybe another person, you need to stop it. When I was growing as a young man, I was very rough. My father fought me. He fought me down, and this thing made me to repent. So that is why you see this thing escalate like this. And then it was Israel, Americans, so they within themselves.
So you're saying that the teachers are to blame for this particular, like I said earlier, let's not trade blames at this point. Let's ask questions, things that we want to know better about. All right, let's take advantage of this time. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, good morning.
Morning.
Actually, Daniel, there's no religion that teaches violence. For instance, in my own state, we take measures to direct our members. What I want to ask the cleric is, what measures do they take in checkmating the attitude and of their members? Because there should be check and balances. I've lived in the north all my life. There's no like he talked about Al-Majri system. Then do you know that most of the Al-Majri, their children their parents are not the ones that bring them out. They don't even know their parents. The woman and a man will take the child to the market and drop the child there. From that day, the child becomes a street boy. At the end of it, it's the teachers or this madam that will take them in and start teaching them. It's not their parents. Majority of them are not taken to the teachers by their parents. So my question is, what measure do they take to make check and balances on their members? Because there should be check and balances that will direct their members on how to behave.
But you're talking about human beings here. They're not an institution that, like the army, that will say you'll punish your soldiers for not doing the right thing.
Daniel, I accept that. In my own faith, we have things. If you do this, we what we call it, some people call it giving back care. It moderates, it checkmates you on how you behave.
Okay.
In my own faith.
Okay.
We have how if you go contrary to this our principle or this.
Yeah. So what happens if you give me the back chair and I still go ahead and do those things? Really?
Let me tell you, Apostle Paul said, discontinue, not eating and drinking with such a person? What measures do they take?
All right. So let him answer the question. Let him answer the question. So Imam Shafi'i, what measures have you taken for those who have gone contrary to the faith?
Actually, like she tried to say, Islam itself has checks and balances against people who have refused to act in conformity with what the faith teaches.
Yeah.
Say, for example, God tells us that if there's a Muslim, you have been telling God says this, God says this, this person does not listen. Islam says you should reduce your interaction with that person and let the person know that you are reducing the interaction because you are a disobedient servant of the Almighty. Don't cut off completely, because if you cut off, it's as if you have condemned that person. The person is now free to do whatever I want. But let the person know that I'm not happy with you because you are not obeying God. But do not continue to allow yourself to marry and everything with that person, because the person therefore will never say anything wrong in what he or she is doing. Because okay, I'm smoking, I'm committing, I'm stealing. You are a friend with an armed robber, you told him to stop, he doesn't stop. You maintain your normal relationship, he will continue because he feels no problem, you are just talking for talking's sake. But you say, if you are going to continue this kind of life, we cannot be what? We cannot be good friends, because you are acting against contrary to God's law. That's all you can do. She must remember that none of us can force what? Anybody. God has not even asked us to force anybody. He said what he has sent the prophets to do. The work of the messengers and teachers and preachers is to what? Deliver the message to the fullest. Leave people to decide what they want to do. Except now the government now wants to enforce certain things that is, for example, killing. Government must come in there. If you are killing somebody, government cannot say, okay, continue killing to change. No, government has to stop now, because otherwise everybody will die. Other than that, morality, you preach it. You say this is what God has said. People are free to what? To take or not. So you cannot really say, somebody will say blame the teacher. You can't blame the teachers. Teachers are to teach. Where you blame them is if they don't teach, or if they don't teach the right thing. But if teachers are teaching and people are not following, what can you do? You can't force
and these days the person might even leave your mosque and go to another mosque.
Place.
You can. So
say this one is too hard. He's telling me not to do what I want to do. I better get out. Go to another place.
Hello, good morning.
Good evening.
Morning.
Yes, my name is Waziri.
Waziri, welcome. Good to hear from you.
Yes, I have 2 questions to ask the Imam.
All right.
Imam, good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
Yeah. What did Islam say about discrimination against sex?
Against?
So, Waziri, we're finding it difficult to understand you or to hear you well. Discrimination against what?
Okay. For the African house, then I have a name that is a Muslim. Then whatever I do, I discriminate because it is.
Hello, Waziri, we're not getting you very clearly. Something's wrong with your line. I really want to hear from you, but can't really understand what you're saying.
Tell him to call back.
Could you call back? Just try to call back. Perhaps it'll be clearer then. Hello, good morning.
Hello, Daniel.
Yes, morning.
Yeah, my name is Alshos from Port Harcourt.
All right.
I have 2 questions for your guest.
Okay.
Number 1, these teachings, how are they making sure that this teaching go to the grassroots, to these young ones that are using for suicide mission? And secondly, how this Quran, they is quoting there, they use in Nigeria. Is it the same in Saudi Arabia? Is it the same in Niger? And this then in the UK?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. Those are good questions. Those are questions that people have in their heads. I like such questions.
Now, so on the grassroots, that is what the mosques are for. Islam, you see, my faith, I'm very proud to say that my faith is a very organized faith and a very practical faith. It's just because both Muslims and non-Muslims, the adherents of the faith, they don't know about the faith. In almost every community, that's why Muslims, men, they are not supposed to pray at home. They pray in where? In the mosque. In the mosque, when they finish praying, they hear admonition every morning, which they are supposed to spread to who? Their wives and their children at home. So Islam has already taken care of the grassroots, and that's why it's a pity that it's not working in North. In the North, for example, we have more mosques in the North than you have here. We're even saying that we don't have no mosque here. So they are the ones that have the opportunity. But when either they have, like we already discussed, they have ignorant leaders or they don't have good leaders at all who are not teaching them this thing, then the purpose for which the mosque is supposed to serve is being defeated. But Islam has got the structure. If the Muslims are not making use of the structure, don't blame Islam for that. Blame the Muslim. But the mosque that are supposed to be in every enclave takes care of, make sure this message of Islam reaches the grassroots. The number two, he said the same Quran. The Quran, one of the things the Muslims are proud of is that the same Quran that we are reading now is the one that was read by the Prophet. Even Orientalists have confirmed this, and it has been translated to every language of the world. You can get it on the internet. If you have Android phones, you can download it. You can buy hard copies in any language, and you will see that the Quran in Arabic is the same. In translations, choice of words might be a bit different, but the Quran in Arabic is the same everywhere. So the same one here in Sweden, in Amsterdam, in Germany, in Kuwait, in Saudi, in Israel, anywhere, the Quran remains the same, unchanged, immutable word of God.
Okay, Imam Shafi'i, if as a Muslim, I'm sure if you walk into any church, if you decide to just on a Sunday visit a church, I'm sure they'll allow you to just enter and sit down and listen if you want to.
Yes.
Can that be said? The same thing be said about Islam. If I, as a non-Muslim, decide to on a Friday actually go and say, let me go and listen to what they're talking about today, will I be allowed to?
You are more than free to do it. In fact, Muslims in America are doing this a great deal. You have in my area, there's even a Christian friend of the congregation.
Yeah.
He comes out, he even comes to sleep in the mosque. When we are talking, he comes and sit down and listen. Sometimes he comes and sleeps. Nobody touches him. The mosque is a place of guidance. Why will you drive people away from it? Why?
So the only thing I need to do is to adhere by the rules. When I come and take off my shoes, whatever it is.
Even the shoe.
Yeah.
The only reason why you will not be allowed to wear the shoe inside is so that the place will not be will not be dirty. Other than that, Muslims are even permitted to pray with their shoes. Okay. You can pray with your shoes. Okay. But you know, if a mosque is tiled, everybody is bringing shoes inside, it become dirty. Yeah. Otherwise, no. In my area, mosque, you can go to any mosque and ask questions, sit down and listen. Besides, how will anybody know you are not a Muslim? If you come to a mosque now, is it written on your head?
No,
Muslim?
no, it's not.
Written.
No, it's not.
So if you come, nobody will know. Particularly if the only way they can know is maybe if you come when they are praying and you don't know how to pray, you don't pray. They wonder, how can you come to mosque, you don't pray. But if you come when they are preaching, when they are admonishing themselves, you sit down, nobody will know. So whether they know or they don't know, non-Muslims are free to come to the mosque.
Okay, all right. Hello, good morning. Hello. Good morning.
Yes, my name is Osidin. I'm calling from Port Harcourt.
All right.
I want the man to really explain the surah that says that you can kill an infidel and go free, because I've read part of the surah that says that, and so I don't know whether it's very contradictory with what he's saying about a Muslim becoming a religion of peace. But
sorry, my brother.
Quran actually prescribes killing an infidel.
Okay, the Imam has a question for you. Just listen. Hello. Hello.
Iran has been sponsoring terrorism, and Iran is a Muslim country. We know, and we also know that recently they sent a word to Nigeria, warning Nigeria about the Shiite movement in Kaduna, and a Muslim cleric has openly accused the Shiite movement, the Islamic movement, of training people to fight war, training their members to fight war. I don't know if the man can explain to us and clarify the problem.
All right, Imam Shafi'i, you have just a minute to do that. I don't know how possible.
On your first question, I wanted to ask you before you left that tell us that verse you are talking where God says in the Quran, go and see a non-Muslim and just kill him and you go to heaven. He seems to say you have read it. I would have appreciated if you had quoted the verse. That's why I wanted to interject that time. So before he will leave, he will tell us there is no such verse in my Quran that where God says go and kill any non-Muslim and you go to heaven. There is no such verse in my Quran. Now about Iran. Iran is a country. Forget whether they say those who are there are Muslims or not. We are not talking about what Muslims are doing. We're talking about what Islam has said Muslims should do. So, and we have said this is not particular to Islam. Every faith has people who claim adherence to it, but they do not live according to what it teaches. When you cite Iran, I can cite other countries that are not of Muslim extraction that are also carrying out dastard acts.
Yeah.
So don't cite what Iran is doing. Iran is not representative of Islam. I told us last week, you go to 3 places to get what a Muslim should do or what you cannot do. Go to the Quran, go to the apostolic traditions, and the way it was practiced by those early Muslims. I would have been happier if you have quoted that verse, and then we'll have seen whether you have a case.
All right, Imam Shafi'i, we've come to the end of this particular edition. I've enjoyed these 4 weeks. Very enlightening. I've understood things that I never before thought of. And I'm sure even Muslims out there have been reschooled or have unlearned what they knew before and have learned something new on how to live their lives better. We're looking forward to having more fruitful conversation as we proceed as well. So thank you very much for these 4 weeks, Imam Shafi'i. Imam Shafi'i Kasim, by the way, is of the Elibolo Mosque in Rumokoro, and is taking time out of his very busy schedule to enlighten us for the past 4 weeks. Imam, thank you very much as well.
Thank you very much for having me, and I hope by God's grace we'll be able to continue these discussions.
All right.
By God's grace.
All right, fantastic. Joy Berryman in the studio. She'll take us to the news for 9 o'clock, and then the second half of the morning crossfire. Still 92. Nigeria Info.